Hello, my Built by 1000 Nation. How's everyone doing today? Oh my God, that's good. Not a sponsor, but Shamrock Farms Caramel Latte Rockin' Protein Energy Protein Shake. Not a sponsor at all in any way, shape, or form, but that is really good. First time having it. I don't eat meat. I drink a lot of different proteins. I eat a lot of different protein bars just to make sure, I stay nice and beautiful for the TVs. You know what I mean? No, that's actually really, really good. Made with pure, great tasting milk loaded with protein. Yes, I can still have milk. I can still have cheese. I just can't eat actual meats anymore. Health issues. It happens. All right. We're back with another Coffeehouse Crime. This one is titled The Vengeful Scissor Sisters. All right. I'm a little concerned and a little worried and really intrigued. So I'm excited to go ahead and get into today's story. If you guys are excited as I am, go ahead, turn them lights down low, put on something comfy, cup with something special. Let's get intrigued.
Their actions were so brutal that they became known as the infamous Scissor Sisters. But what exactly happened for them to be given such a gruesome nickname? When body parts began to wash up in Dublin's river, it led detectives on a wild hunt to find and arrest those responsible. However, even after a double confession, the authorities had to work hard to find the others. And as they would soon find out, no one in this story was entirely innocent, including their victim. Welcome back to Coffeehouse Crime, folks. My name is Adrian, and today we're traveling to Ireland to look at the infamous case of the Scissor Sisters. You know, stories like this remind us that not all murder cases are black and white. Sometimes when you look at the details behind the tragic backstory, it makes you think twice or even change your mind. By the way, I post true crime and dark stories like this every single week, so please subscribe if you'd like to see more. And now, with that said, please grab yourself a coffee and let's caffeinate while we investigate. This is the case of the Scissor Sisters.
And, as I always say, if you haven't already, and, I don't know why you haven't, go to the Built 5000 store, get you an amazing coffee cup. I have several different designs up there, several different shirt designs. Like, I'm getting ready to start designing a few more. I love this. I love doing this type of shit. I do. Definitely go check out the store. And, while you guys are at it, if you guys like me that much where you're wanting to go and check out the store, definitely go over and become a part of the Discord. Yes, that's right. We have a B5 Nation Discord. The link is going to be in the description of this video, and it's also on my YouTube homepage. It's like the first one in a set where it says links. Discord should be the very first one. You do not have to become a paying member of the Discord. You can still get on there and see the videos I post here on YouTube. If you don't want to come over to YouTube, it's fine. There's also a place for, I have it pulled up on my desk at all times. Like right now, I'm seeing you guys kind of chat back and forth with each other, and I love it. I love that shit. I love the fact that we're making a community where everyone can just talk with everyone. That just puts a smile on my face so much. But we have a place for supporter chat, which is going to be the $3.99. And today there will also be B5 videos where it's a part of the $3.99 thing, and a bunch of emojis and all that good shit. And we have a place for the videos here on YouTube. And I've noticed a lot of people have a hard time sending me links to requests that they want me to do for videos. So I did put a section just for requests for that specific reason over on the Discord. So if for some reason it's not going through, or I haven't gotten it or anything like that, definitely go over, leave it on the Discord. It's up all the time. And there's also a place for discussions, because sometimes, whenever we're doing a video, we're not done talking with each other, and the premiere's over and it won't let me say anything else. Now we can go over into the Discord and continue any talks that we're having or anything like that, which I am loving. And there's also a place for pictures. That's right. If you have watched this channel any at all, you know how much I love seeing like sceneries, views, just pictures of nature. I love it. I love the outdoors. I live in Ohio. My outdoors suck. I can travel to a few good places, but I've seen them 1,000 times. It's literally lost its oomph to me. So I would really like to see some pictures of like just whenever you guys go on hikes to your favorite place or anything like that. Pictures, man. I love it. I love it. Like Slice and Dice sends me all kinds of pictures, and I'm digging every minute of it, man. I feel like everyone's just kind of bonding. And I love that. I love that. It's like a family. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. So if you want to become part of the B5 family, go over to the Discord. Give it a shot, man. It's amazing. Let's go ahead and get into today's story. Go ahead, turn the lights down low, put on something comfy, couple something special. Let's get probably disgusted. Let's just get disgusted because I have a feeling I'm going to want to go at some point throughout this video.
Welcome to Ireland, folks. An ancient island country with a rich and cultured history driven by myth, legend, and religion. Ireland has been home to human life for over 30,000 years now.
Pictures like that.
So of course, it is no wonder why the Irish hold on to their heritage quite dearly. I mean, with such a deep history filled with bloodshed and, of course, the Great Potato Famine, who can blame them for being so patriotic? It's a country which is steeped in Celtic and Gaelic.
I have Celtic Irish and I have Scottish in my family, and I have never been. I want to go so bad. Like, I just feel like my main reason why I haven't is because I would not want to come back. Look at how gorgeous that is. Oh, my lord.
Roots. With jaw-dropping beauty that is hard not to appreciate.
Look at the little rainbow.
As for its people, the
the
Irish
little
are
rainbow?
a very friendly bunch, and having recently been there myself, I can strongly agree. As many of you will know, Ireland is well known for its famous pub culture.
Hold up. I gotta take this back just ever so tenderly.
The Irish are a very friendly bunch, and having recently
Is this Mike? Mike and Adrian. Oh, that's so fucking awesome, bro.
been there myself, I can strongly agree. As many of you will know, Ireland is well known for its famous pub culture and, of course, its signature beer, Guinness. That is, if you can appreciate drinking the equivalent of a liquid loaf of bread. By the way, have any of you tried a Gonster before? Mix Guinness with Monster Energy and apparently you get this. I mean, personally, I'm both terrified and kind of curious to try it. Anyway, today we'll be zoning in on Dublin, which is found in the
Bunch
Republic
of drunk
of
hyper
Ireland.
people, bro.
As
You
the
can't beat
capital
it.
city, Dublin is the most densely populated area in the country. Though, even still, it has a modest population of only 550,000 residents. The city is built around the banks of the River Liffey, giving it both a social and laid-back vibe. This is no surprise, as the people of Dublin are famous for providing friendly welcomes to strangers. It is definitely worth visiting, with many ancient natural sites only a stone's throw away from the city. Take a step back into Dublin, and you'll be met with many pleasant sights, sounds, and smells. The city is crammed full of old Irish architecture, and markets dot the many streets around Dublin's old castle, and streets are greeted with the pleasant smells of coffee shops, bakeries, and fragrance shops alike. It's just a shame that they can be so darn expensive. And momentarily speaking, that's where Scentbird comes in. Scentbird is a monthly scent subscription service that saves you money and deepens your ability to find fragrance that's best for you. Now, this is just my own personal opinion here, but fragrances are an excellent way to express your personality, boost your confidence, and feel more attractive. In fact, did you know that a recent poll revealed that 85% of people believe that their fragrance is important to their own personal identity? With Scentbird, you can experiment and change your fragrance every single month. Select a scent of your choice and you'll receive a 30-day supply in a travel-sized vial, which is perfect for those on the go or who want to try something new every once in a while. Scentbird offers an incredible range of more than 700 fragrances, including popular brands like Prada and Versace, and more bespoke labels like Parfums de Marly and Roger. The frustrating thing about fragrances is that bottles can cost up to $500, which is ludicrous in this economy. With Scentbird, I can try a fragrance for a slither of the price. Scentbird is exactly what I needed to find my own favourite fragrances, including Eros by Versace, The One by Dolce & Gabbana, and my signature scent, Leighton by Parfum de Marly. With notes of bergamot, lavender, and vanilla, I never leave the house without Leighton, and if it wasn't for Scentbird, I'd have never found this fragrance. So thank you, Scentbird. Oh, and by the way, having a new fragrance to try every single month is a great thing to look forward to, so why not give it a try? To add to that, you can try your first month of Scentbird for only $8, and then your following month at only $16.95. If you're interested, use my code COFFEE55, scan the QR code, or click the link in the description below for 55% off your first order. That's only $8 for your first fragrance. Thank you to Scentbird for sponsoring this video, and thank you to you folks for supporting us content creators.
It means you don't have to buy soap until that runs out, man.
Moving back to our story today, and as I was saying, you will find that the streets of Dublin are alive on any given day of the year. However, on March the 30th, 2005, a local in one of the quieter areas of Dublin would peer into the River Liffey, only to set their eyes.
Look, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Yes, I know, it's like, Bill, there's fog. Man, not like that, bro. Man, here we get fog until like 8 o'clock in the morning. Every great once in a while you get a little fog in at night, like steamy nights and shit like that. But look at that, like, that's beautiful, man.
Is on a morbid discovery.
I love nature.
Floating along the river, they found a severed leg, which had been cut off by the knee and with its sock still on. Authorities were notified immediately, and the area surrounding the discovery was secured while investigations began. After all, they had only recovered a leg so far, and so several questions still remained. Where was the rest of the body? Who was this person? And how could they be identified? After careful observation, they determined that the leg must belong to a man, and soon enough, more of him was discovered. Over the following hours, divers scoured the River Liffey and found 7 more body parts. Parts of his arms, legs and torso were recovered from the murky depths. However, in order to identify him, they needed a face, which unfortunately was never found. And the strangest part of this discovery was still yet to come. Upon a post-mortem examination, it was found that the man's genitals had been entirely severed off, this being the other piece that would never be found. However, despite lacking...
They kept it? I mean, right? Why did they keep his face in his peen ding? Was it that good of a peen ding? I don't know how I feel about this already. Like, I'm getting some pains. Why did they cut off his peen? That's mean. Don't do that.
A face and his jewels, the authorities persevered to identify this unfortunate man. Over the following days, several media appeals were made across Ireland, pleading for any information to identify him. And his identity would remain a mystery for several long days. Is he even really a man anymore? That was until a man from Somalia came forward. Although he had nothing to do with the killing, he did recognize the t-shirt that was draped over the torso. He believed it belonged to a man that he had previously worked with, that being a 40-year-old man named Farah Swaleh Noor. Now, according to Farah himself, he had told his friend that he was actually from Somalia, and his family had all died in the Somalian Civil War. However, upon further investigation, it was discovered that actually he was born in Mombasa in Kenya, and that, furthermore, many of his family were still alive. Farah had spent most of his life covertly living in Ireland illegally, and unfortunately, that was for a very good reason too. You see, Farah's past was littered with criminal convictions, including public intoxication, abusive behavior, and even sexual assault. But unknown to Ireland itself, his crimes actually went far further than that too. In fact, back in the year 1997, he assaulted a 16-year-old girl who would go on to have a son by him. What is even more horrifying about this story is that this teenager suffered from mental disabilities, making her even more vulnerable and unable to consent. His
Motherfucker needed his
horrifying
dick cut off,
actions
bro.
would not end there either. He actually
Piece
had
of
2
shit.
other children by other women too, also as a result of sexual assault.
This motherfucker's
Astoundingly,
trash.
Farah faced 8 charges of
I'm kind of glad your penis was never found, you piece of shit. Here I was feeling bad for you getting your penis cut off. Bro, your penis was, I hope your penis was cut off before you was ever fucking killed. Fucking trash ass motherfucker.
disorder and assault, but was only convicted on 3 of these occasions. And even still, he never served any time in jail. You see, due to his vicious nature, he never seemed to stay in one place for too long, not only to evade the law, but also to run from the many enemies he made along the way. But saying that, Farah was still able to make himself home in several areas around Dublin, usually with a girlfriend, a friend, or in government housing. Despite all of this terrible behaviour, the legal system failed to ever deport him out of the country. And surprisingly, in 1999, he was given citizenship. He received citizenship simply because he became the father of an Irish-born child. And what's worse, we don't even know if that was consensual or not.
Probably
Now,
not.
to those of you who believe that I always portray the victims in a positive light, this dirtbag is definitely an exception. Because in March of 2005, this guy was found chopped up in the River Liffey. And so,
Good.
after years of being in a police station for all of the wrong
Good.
reasons, he was now the one that police would have to retribute. The man who
mean-
had recognized the body through Farah's t-shirt would go on to tell detectives everything that he
I mean, do you really gotta? I'm sorry, but I get it. Every family needs closure. Just because he's a piece of shit doesn't mean like the rest of his family doesn't need closure, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I wouldn't have been in no hurry. You have assaulted no, you have assaulted women, and now some of these women are stuck with a constant reminder of what you did for the next rest of their life because they have a kid by you. That would be That would have to be the hardest thing in the world. Oh my lord. I hope his ping was cut off before he ever died. Actually, I hope his face was cut off before he ever died too, the piece of shit.
knew about him. This included the fact that he was unemployed, struggled with alcohol addiction, and was in a relationship with a woman who lived nearby in Richmond Cottages. So, this is where we meet the Mulhalls. Most notably, 49-year-old Kathleen and her 2 daughters, 30-year-old Linda and 21-year-old Charlotte. And let me tell you folks, you better buckle up for this one, because I'm about to give you a very turbulent family history. Soon enough, detectives learned that Kathleen had been in a relationship with Farah for 3 years since 2002. Before Farah, she was married to another man named John Mulhall, where they settled in Kilclare Gardens, a short drive from Dublin. Before their divorce, they raised a family of 3 boys and 3 girls between them, and sadly, their upbringing was well known to be both troubled and tumultuous.
Aw.
The Mulhalls were part of the Irish travelling community, which are nomadic indigenous people of Ireland. This meant that they often moved around the country, which, as you will likely imagine, never provided a solid and stable upbringing for their children. And unfortunately, they also lacked adequate education, which is typically found in the Irish school system. However, that was not the only issue here, because, as it turns out, their parents had a terrible relationship, mostly because John was both mentally and physically abusive to his wife. No surprise, this ultimately would lead to their divorce in the year 2002, though by then their
Yeah,
6
happens,
children
man.
were all adults and had started their own families. Saying that, the family stayed quite close, as is relatively common in the travelling community, and all siblings would look out for each other whenever they needed it. Now, Kathleen's 2 daughters, Linda and Charlotte, were absolutely inseparable. Linda, who was now 30 years old, had left school early and struggled to find a job that would take her, and so, as a result, she was still unemployed. And although she would go on to have 4 children of her
sucks.
own, the father was not in the picture. Instead, they had a stepfather named Wayne, who unfortunately was also severely abusive towards Linda and her children. Unfortunately, things escalated so severely that he would routinely beat them with a metal pipe, leading
What
all
the
4 children
fuck?
to being placed in social care. And as a result, Wayne would go on to serve a 7-year sentence in prison. Following
Good.
this very devastating experience, Linda turned to alcohol to help cope with her grief,
I'd imagine.
which, as you can imagine, would only make things worse, not just for her, but everyone around her too. She also had a heroin addiction, which made her life all the more unhealthier and riddled with debt. Her younger sister, Charlotte, seemed to suffer from very similar issues, including both drug and alcohol abuse. Between them, they would normalize this sort of behavior, and so this cycle seemed to be never-ending. The pair of sisters were rather notorious in their local community too, but sadly, for all of the wrong reasons. Primarily due to their antisocial behavior, including charges of theft and criminal damage.
Damn.
And when Farah was added to this trio of dysfunctional women, well, things would only get worse. Not that Charlotte and Linda approved of the mother's new partner either. To them, he was just another abusive and violent schmuck. But even still, they put up with Farah for their own mother's sake. Because sadly, growing up around such behavior, it was almost expected to have an abusive partner. And so, this sort of cyclic abuse persisted between the 4 of them, and they would often argue and even fight one another. And despite all of them being unemployed, they would still often binge drink and take drugs together. This led to extreme debt and poverty.
I never understood that. How the fuck can you not have a job or any form of income and still be fucked off your ass, man? How does that happen? Man, there was times I barely had money for groceries. But by God, you can see someone out there with absolutely not shit to their name pushing a buggy around high as fuck on something. Getting drunk as shit. Like, how do you do that? How can you be broke as shit and still be fucked off your ass? That makes no damn sense.
Amongst all of the chaos between them. And, as you can likely imagine, all of this would end in the most severe and tragic of ways. Now, although the authorities were familiar with the family and their troubling behavior, they were basically helpless in solving this murder, at least for now.
These
Farah
ladies are
was an
scaring the
unemployed
shit out of me, man.
alcoholic, and unfortunately,
Like, I get it, but they look just scary. Not like scary, like, oh my God, they're ugly or anything. No, it's just they're like something they're giving off, like in all these pictures. It just looks like, no, someone you need to be afraid of, man. I'm telling you. Especially that younger one. There's death behind her eyes. Like, she looked like she just stabbed you in the throat and keep on going.
Fortunately, he had no family to apply pressure to the authorities. In fact, it would take the authorities more than 7 months to chase
give a
their
shit.
only lead in the case. That, of course, being the Mulhall family themselves. But finally, after waiting so long, it was time to pay them a visit. After arriving at the property, all
Gave them
3
enough time to
women,
leave if they
including
wanted.
her ex-husband John, were arrested. And this is where it starts to get interesting. First and foremost,
This is
John
where it
was
starts to
quickly
get
cleared to
interesting.
have any involvement in his death. I mean, apart from having a rock-solid alibi, he had no motivation to kill the man whatsoever. However, in saying that, the same could not be said for the ladies of the group. Now, Kathleen, Linda and Charlotte all had matching stories. So far so good. However, all 3 of them were extraordinarily vague with the details they provided. And what's more, they all appeared to be rather cold towards officers. And these abnormalities intrigued the detectives, which was enough for now. Without any solid evidence or any proper reason to arrest them, all 3 of the women were eventually let go. However, it would be a sudden and unexpected confession that would eventually reveal the truth about Farah's death and seal their fates forever. It looks like guilt got the better of one of them, because their eldest daughter, Linda, had something to share. Living with a guilty conscience can be an unbearable.
I knew it wasn't going to be the young one. I told you the young one, she had death behind her eyes. I told you.
Burden. And Linda, she was never one to stay silent. She could
Bill
no longer
knows,
take
bro.
it, and so,
Bill
later
knows.
that month, she turned herself in to the authorities, where she produced a voluntary statement admitting her involvement in Farah's brutal attack. Following this confession, police officers were able to acquire a warrant to search the family's home at Richmond Cottages. Upon entering the property, they were greeted with a rundown home that displayed clear evidence of drug use and paraphernalia. And despite the time that had already passed since Farah's death, faint bloodstains were easily identified in the living room, marking their failed attempt at cleaning up the crime scene.
I would have moved. 7 months, I would have moved.
As expected, forensic analysis concluded that the blood did in fact belong to Farah, and this, combined with Linda's confession, was enough to arrest both her and her sister, Charlotte. Knowing that the game was now finally over, it didn't take long for Charlotte to confess to the authorities either, and now both women seemed to want to come clean about the story. And let me tell you, it is not for the faint of heart. It was on March the 20th, 2005, which was 10 days before the discovery of his body, that Kathleen, Farah, and her daughters were out in Dublin city centre together.
We got 10 minutes left. Oh, it's going to get fuckered, bruh.
Now, this marked the weekend of St. Patrick's Day, which, as many of you will know, is a very important holiday in Ireland. Although it has become less religious over the years, it is still a massive nationwide party for the country. And of course, you can always expect the Irish to have a drink or 5 to celebrate. So, who were they to go against tradition? The 4 of them drank heavily as they jumped around the various pubs and bars all afternoon, before eventually returning to Catholic.
I tell you what, though, I am so tired of drinking green beer on St. Patrick's Day. Like the collars that come out the lower half of you after that is, I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Leans flat in Summerhill. However, as you can probably guess, the drinking did not stop there. They continued to heavily binge drink well into the evening. And to make matters even worse,
look, St. Patrick's Day is the only day where it's okay to be day drunk. There's nothing better than being day drunk. Like, that's fun as shit. It's like, the lady's the designated driver for the whole day. I have everything I need, and we just go. Go to this person's house, this person's house. It's like, hey, man. Here you go. Thanks. Like, I love St. Patrick's Day. I love it so much.
Alcohol was not the only substance they were planning to abuse. As the night wore on, Kathleen, Linda, and Charlotte decided to take things up a notch by taking ecstasy, more commonly known as MDMA. As many of you will know, MDMA causes severe hallucinogenic effects that distort time and perception, enhance sensory enjoyment, and can even increase self-awareness and empathy. For good measure, they crushed up a pill and sprinkled it into Farah's drink to make sure that all of them were on the same buzz. And, as you can imagine, a sexually violent individual under the effects of drugs and alcohol was a recipe for disaster. While Kathleen and Farah were sitting on the sofa, Linda was perched on the arm beside them. It was at that moment that Farah touched one of them inappropriately. But, concerningly, it wasn't his partner. Instead, it was her daughter. Despite her hesitation, he locked his arms around her, and, enraged, Kathleen screamed at him to let her go. Nobody was in their right mind at the time, and sadly, things escalated rather abruptly. Having had enough, this was the vital moment that Kathleen screamed at her daughters to, quote, "Just kill him for me." Charlotte grabbed a Stanley knife and then sliced Farah across the throat, sending him plummeting to the ground. Next, Linda picked up a hammer before...
I told you, that young one, man, there was death behind her eyes. She didn't even hesitate. She jumped right up and was like, yeah.
before striking him in the head. Through this attack, Farah had sustained more than 20 separate stab wounds, and his skull had been heavily caved inward.
My
As
God.
a result, he
That's
was
a
rendered
violent
almost
family.
entirely unrecognizable. The
mean,
sisters then dragged
for
his
them,
body
but-
into the bathroom, where they began to slowly
Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to feel bad for the piece of shit. He's a piece of shit. Like, he got what he deserved. I'm sorry, you can't assault women and then me sit there and be like, oh, poor thing. No, fuck you, bud. These ladies gave you what you deserved. I hope they didn't even get a whole lot of time. I hope they got a slap on the fucking wrist.
dismember him with a Stanley knife and a kitchen knife. His head, limbs, and manhood were then separated from his torso. With Charlotte and Linda performing the entire operation with only 2 small knives, you can imagine this took several hours to complete.
Yeah.
And of course, this scene was very likely to be gruesome and bloody. Neither of the sisters were smart, experienced, or even sober during this time frame. So I can
Excuse me.
imagine that not only was this process riddled with mistakes, but it was extraordinarily messy too. Embarking into the night, Charlotte, Linda, and Kathleen then made several trips to the canal, which conveniently was only a few yards away from home. And as you can probably guess, they then put the bags they were carrying, which were filled with his limbs, into the river. All of Farah's body parts, excluding his head, was thrown into the dark waters, of course in order to avoid any sort of identification. Instead, the head went to Shawn Walsh Memorial Park. Now, what's quite morbidly interesting here is that, in order to get to the park, they actually walked with his head in a shopping bag through a very busy shopping centre. I guess you never know what really is in that bag. While at the park, Charlotte dug a hole
What's
in the
in the
ground
box?
with a knife before throwing the head in and burying it. Now, honestly, I have no idea what her obsession is with doing everything with the knife, but each to their own, I suppose. After that, Kathleen then took the knives and
Look, I'm okay with guns, but I think it's just like an Irish thing. I have a lot more knives and swords and axes and shields than I do anything. Like, there's probably, I would definitely say, more swords, knives, and axes than anything else in my house. Some of them, yeah, you can see them. Trust me, not all of them. Like, any room I go in, I have a weapon I can grab at any time. I don't want to say I'm a paranoid person, but I'm a cautious person. All right?
hammer and threw it into a nearby pond to scatter the evidence. Linda then returned a few days later, digging up the head before using her son's school bag to transfer it to another location, where she then further smashed up the head into more pieces and buried it once again. And despite their sloppy efforts, this would remain hidden until Linda's confession a few weeks later. Now, despite Charlotte and Linda both peacefully accepting their arrest, their mother, on the other hand, was nowhere to be found. In fact, upon hearing the news, she fled the country immediately. As a result, the authorities would soon learn that she had run
Man, I would have just took everyone and we would have left the country. Like 7 months for them to come looking for you. Month 1, I'd been gone. Gone.
away to England, sparking the beginning of a national manhunt. Being an Irish traveller, Kathleen was accustomed to a rather nomadic lifestyle, and so it wasn't hard for her to move around frequently without any official documentation, thus making it extremely difficult for the authorities to track her down.
She's nomadic.
And sadly, she wasn't the only parent to leave the sisters behind. Due to his own mental health struggles and the shame of losing his family, John Mulhall was found hanging in Phoenix Park in December of 2005, a mere few months after their confession. Due to the brutal nature of Farah's murder and the way he was killed, this case gained massive media
Holy
attention,
shit.
with news tabloids giving the two women the nickname the Scissor Sisters. Moving into the legal proceedings,
I mean, I don't know about there, but here that the Scissor Sisters has a whole other meaning as well. I mean, it's a
Of this case, Linda and Charlotte went on trial 1 year later in October of 2006. Meanwhile, their mother, Kathleen, was still unaccounted for. It should be highlighted
Smart
here
lady.
that the trial would have been sooner if Linda had cooperated with doctors in dealing with her heroin addiction. However, she refused medication to help her with withdrawal and recovery, and it's believed that all of this was intentional to delay court proceedings.
Some people
Following their
just don't like
confessions,
to-
the trial did not take
Some people look like this, man. I'm trying to get everything out of my system. Why do I want to put something else in my system that I might just get addicted? I've one of the main reasons why I don't handle like the drug stuff very well when it comes to reactions, and a lot of people's like, man, you are really mean to, you know, some of these. Look, I have had to deal with addiction a lot in my family, and several of them, whenever they have finally gotten clean, they refused any medicines to help them through it or anything, because they literally said that, you know, the medicines helping them just was like a band-aid, like it wasn't what they should have went through. And then whenever they went and didn't have medicines and stuff to make it comfortable, like they still had to have IVs and stuff like that, because they was really bad off. But it stuck with them not having the medicines to help you through it. But no, I don't handle drug addiction very well. A lot of my family has been ruined over it, and it leaves a bad taste in my brain for the rest of my life. Don't feel bad for me, Argentina. Don't cry for me, Argentina, or none of that shit. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. That's just my opinion on it. Like, I'm sure there's people out there with the same opinion I have. They've just seen it destroy their family so much that they can't have sympathy for it. They're dead to it on the inside. It happens.
long to conclude. However, the pair's defense was relatively solid, to say the least. They both pleaded not guilty by means of self-defense, which is kind of understandable given Farah's previous behavior towards them, previous convictions, and blatant hatred towards all women. However, their efforts were futile, and ultimately Charlotte, being the one to initiate the murder, was given the mandatory life sentence. Meanwhile, Linda was charged with manslaughter instead of murder, as the jury accepted her defense of provocation. As a result, she was given 15 years behind bars.
Damn.
Now, interestingly, both sisters would appeal their sentences on the grounds of insufficient psychiatric evaluation. They also claimed that the jury were forced into a rushed decision by the judge. To this day, Charlotte remains behind bars, where her sister Linda was released in 2018. This was after serving only 12 years of her 15-year sentence. Of course, the media has tracked her down since then, but quite understandably, she expresses that she just wants to get on with her life and refuses to comment on her crimes. Ever since her incarceration, Charlotte's behavior in prison has been fairly controversial. Images of her holding a knife to a male inmate's throat have surfaced on numerous occasions, which, of course, prompted her to be moved to a women's-only prison. I mean, I guess quite understandably, she was in no mood to let any other man treat her poorly. Meanwhile, her mother voluntarily returned to Ireland in the year 2008 to face her own charges.
Really?
Namely 2 counts of providing false information, withholding information, and avoiding her arrest in the murder investigation. She would also plead guilty to concealing evidence. However, she denied having any physical role in the murder. In addition to this, she would also provide information to help the prosecution against her own daughters. But then again, I guess she was not planning to win any Mother of the Year award either way. Eventually, Kathleen was sentenced to 5 years in prison for her own involvement in the crime, meaning that she too is now a free woman. Being honest with you, I find this part of the story quite unbelievable, because this was a very small sentence for someone who witnessed and then concealed a murder
Yeah.
before then deciding to evade the law themselves. And so, at the time of this video being posted in the year 2024, 2 of the 3 Mulhall women are now free to roam as they please. It's only Charlotte who remains behind bars. Due to the grotesque and violent nature of their crime, the Scissor sisters continue to gain massive media attention and are still often talked about to this very day. So much so that this case was recommended to me in a Dublin coffee shop. Farah Swallenor was, by no means, a good man. He was unemployed, often a public nuisance, abusive towards women, and chronically abused drugs and alcohol. He was also the father to multiple children, many of which were through abuse. And so, I'm not going to say that he deserved it, but I'm not going to say he didn't either. Domestic abuse is a very heavy situation.
I wouldn't even.
And this could be why these women.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, no, not all of them would just got 5 years if I was the fucking judge. Fuck that shit. The motherfucker deserved it. He was trash. He was a predator of women. And those are someone's moms. Those are someone's sisters. Those are someone's children. Those are someone's daughters. You do not fucking do that. You have respect.
Only saw murder as a way out. There are many people out there who disagree with Charlotte's life sentence, believing that all she was doing was protecting her mother and sister from a very abusive man, and that, furthermore, the world is actually a better place without someone like Farah in it. It's evident that all of their antisocial lifestyles were a catalyst for chaos, violence, and crime. So maybe it was only a matter of time before a tragedy like this was to happen. These 4 people had an extraordinarily chaotic and turbulent life between them, and so, unfortunately, it is quite easy to see why and how something so tragic could happen. On that note, what do you think about this case? Do you think it's simply murder, or was this more an act of self-defense?
Honestly, okay, here's my opinion on it. Did he know that they was drugging him? You know, did he know that they was giving him, like, whatever the fuck it was, whatever, MDA. And if he did, that's one thing. If he didn't, that's still a whole other thing. Like, yeah, then, you know, they drugged him, but, I mean, he's literally trying to force himself on one of the daughters right in front of everyone else. I mean, if there's this motherfucker trying to force himself on one of my daughters or my sister, I'm going to kill him in the worst fucking way imaginable, and I'm going to be whistling a tune when the police show up. I wouldn't have gave her life. I would probably gave her about 10, 15 years like the other sister. Yes, she still did wrong. You shouldn't take someone's life. It should have been dealt with in a court of law. Like, I get that. But I also understand sometimes the law fails. How many times have we watched videos on here where, like, oh, this dude has sexually assaulted so many women, and, like, he was actually caught in the act, and this, that, and the other. He got 7 years and only served 5. No, motherfucker needs his penis cut off and shoved up his own booty hole, man. Like, that's my opinion. And like I tell, you know, in my videos all the time, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and everyone thinks theirs don't smell like shit. Mine don't. Mine's roses all the way, bruh. And don't you dare say dead roses either. All right. I really enjoyed today's story. Like, I really enjoy Coffeehouse Crime. I know a lot of y'all can take or leave it, the Coffeehouse Crime. A lot of y'all like the other things that I react to, but I really do enjoy Coffeehouse Crime because no matter what, after I'm done watching one of his videos, I just feel like, I don't know. I love it. All right. If y'all enjoyed today's video as much as I did, please go down there, leave a thumbs up. While you're down there, if you want, go on over and slap that subscribe button. Become part of the Bill 5000 Nation. And if you're doing that, why don't you go on over and check out the Discord? I'm doing crazy stuff over there all the time as well. That's right. My crazy's so big you can't just contain it to one place. Plus, I'm going to be having new videos up there weekly as well. So if you want to go over and help support the channel and become a supporter, a member of the Discord, I would really appreciate it. And I will be posting more and more videos up there as we go. So, yeah, I'm having fun, man. I'm loving life right now. Oh, damn, Adrian. I've seen you with Mike. You're living life too, bro. We're all living life, man. Y'all love it. All right. Like I said, if y'all really enjoyed today's video, please go down there, leave a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And, you know, while you're at it, ding that bell. It might work for you. It might not. It probably won't. It usually don't. But if it do, jump in on one of my jump in on one of my premieres. Go over in the live chat and be like, "Hey, Bill, I don't get dinged on Discord the way you ding me here. We need to fix that." I'm gonna be like, "I got you. I'll see what I can do." As always, be good to one another. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye. Man, I want to meet Mike and Adrian at a coffee shop just one time, man. Just one motherfucking time. I mean, don't get me wrong. They can pay for my coffee. Like, I'm not paying for their coffee. They make so much more than me. They can pay for my coffee. I'm getting a venti. Getting a venti. I don't know what venti means. I think venti means 20. Don't it mean 20? I want a large whatever, man.
As all
As always.